You are listening to the Vintage Rock and Pop Shop here on 89.1 WFDU FM. My guest this hour is LinDee Rochelle. She's not going to be on for the whole hour. I don't want to scare her, but LinDee Rochelle is on, author of Blast from Your Past, a look at, the birth of rock and roll DJs. LinDee, welcome to the show.
Why, thank you, Ghosty. It's great to be here, and thanks for asking me.
And I should mention to the audience that if you hear this persistent whooshing sound, LinDee does not live in a wind tunnel. However, she lives in the next best thing, which is an area, what is it, you're underneath the freeway?
No, I'm over top the freeway.
You're over top the freeway. So
yeah, I live up a hill, up an embankment, and this is an area where apparently California has decided that we don't need a wall to separate us from the freeway. So, yeah, it's constant. Lulls me to sleep at night.
You know, you ought to set up a little toll plaza right outside.
Hey, that's a good
benefit
idea.
from this. So today, it's January 20th, and that is National DJ Day. So should I be expecting a cake or something? What is that all about?
We should break that out, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's exciting. National DJ Day. I get all excited after the holidays just for that reason.
Well, listen, if you're out there listening and you know a DJ or there's one close by, go up and hug him. And
Absolutely.
say, yes,
hug your DJ
hug
day.
your DJ and say, you don't have to take this commercial break. Now
Here, let me help you today.
Tomorrow, also a very big day, which we'll get into in just a moment. But I want to talk about your book, Blast from Your Past, and what prompted you to investigate the early rock and roll DJs.
Well, I'm a huge rock and roll fan anyway, and of all music, actually. My mother was a dance instructor, so, on the stage at 3, I didn't have a choice. But rock and roll is the music that I grew up with. And, it seems like the music that you have as a teenager that everybody in your, mother's brother, you might say, listens to at that time is what you remember the most. And so for me, it was rock and roll, and it was such a dynamic period anyway. So I had been assigned a magazine article, because I am a writer, and I'd been assigned a magazine article to write about rock and roll memorabilia. But I had a friend of mine in Phoenix who was a DJ, and I'm in San Diego, and I gave him a call, and Bill and I started reminiscing and talking about, Wolfman Jack and Dr. Don Rose and some of the big guys like that. And it just went from there, and we had a really fun conversation. And when I got off the phone, I got to thinking about that. I said, whatever happened to those guys? So I wanted to know what happened, and now I'm basically writing about them. I'm leaving my legacy and their legacies as well, and I'm just having so much fun doing it. Rock and roll rescued radio at that time, because right about the mid-'50s, is when television really got a grip on its audience, and the DJs, up to that point, they had to speak very distinctly and enunciate every word and never talk over the music and never, you were just not supposed to have much of a personality. You were just there as an announcer. And rock and roll was energetic, and it was lively, and it was fun. So they had to be, too.
Tell me some of your favorite DJs that you cover in the book.
Oh, my goodness. That's so hard to do.
Well, I mean...
They're all my favorites.
I know it's hard to pick favorites, but...
I interviewed more than 40 DJs altogether, and still working on that 25-year edition. But the first edition has 15 DJs in it that are really the pioneers of the era. One of the guys is the one who went on to produce Louie Louie, and that was Ken Chase, a.k.a. Mike Corrigan. Mm-hmm. And then I interviewed Cousin Brucey, who of course, in the New York area is very well known. And, just several guys from across the country that were there in the beginning, helped shape what would become rock and roll DJs and what shaped our music.
Now, another guy that's celebrating a birthday, or would have been celebrating a birthday tomorrow, is Wolfman Jack.
Absolutely. Absolutely. He would have been 75 years old.
75. Tell us a little bit about Wolfman Jack and the Border Blasters.
Okay. He came across because he started out in Manhattan, too.
Right.
So he was actually a New York kid to start with, and he kind of went his way across the country knowing, probably about halfway across where he was headed, but in the beginning he didn't. And, made a few stops. It took him a year or so, you might say, in between things, because he had heard XCRB while he was in New York. It was one of those huge blasters that could get so far across the country, and sometimes, I guess, if just right, you could actually hear him in other countries. It was in Mexico, and the predominant format was preachers,
right,
and people hyping different types of products and everything, and he got control of it, and had bought it out and everything, and then he would be on at midnight. And so he would let them stay on all day long, and then at midnight he would take over, and that's when he became Wolfman Jack, is when he did that overnight, broadcasting and everything, and he started playing the music.
He might have been the most listened to DJ in America, I would think.
I would think so, yeah. I have read his book, Have Mercy. The stories that he tells in there are just incredible. And he says in there how he would have people come up to him and, from other countries and say that on a good night,
right,
they could actually hear him.
That's something that'll never happen again. I suppose, in a way, the Internet is sort of like the ultimate border blaster, because you can, listen to, any show anywhere.
True. But it's the culture, it's the society that's different.
That's true.
Because the Internet, unfortunately or fortunately, however you want to look at it, isn't the only thing that captures attention anymore.
Right.
The only thing we had as teenagers that we could feel the adults weren't involved in was our radio, our music. And that's just not the way anymore. I mean, there's so many things that take kids' attention. We didn't have video games and, everything else to attract us and to take us away from the music. The music was us.
I think you'll find, certainly in this current young generation, I guess they're called the millennial generation, that music is not high on their list of priorities. It's really not. They don't define themselves by their music.
Yeah.
They don't. You can't really pigeonhole them. You can't say this is the generation that launched blah blah blah, because
exactly.
there is no blah blah blah. There is no big band. There's no scene. There's no nothing. These kids. I mean, in a way, I feel sorry for them, but they don't have. They can't look back and say, like, other people could look back and say, well, we all remember Elvis. We all remember the Beatles. We all remember, ABBA.
Yeah.
You name it. And the generation today, they can't do that. They can't say, well, in 10 years we're all going to sit back and laugh about how we all used to watch, or all used to listen to, or all used to read, or there's no common touchstone for that.
No, I think that kind of went away in the 80s. I think that was probably the last decade that there was that camaraderie. Because for instance, or maybe the 90s, if you say, does anybody remember Friends? Okay, everybody remembers that show.
Right.
But anything after that?
Yeah, there really isn't.
Okay, Twilight maybe.
Yeah, you're right. You know what? That might be it. That might be the one thing. Those darn Twilight movies. Well, but before we start sounding like bitter, angry old people, where can we get Blast from Your Past?
You can get it from blastfromyourpast.net, and you can also go over to Amazon. And the ebook is also actually in celebration of its first year, okay, because Blast from Your Past was actually published last year about this time.
Mm-hmm.
So in celebration of its first year, I have done a updated version of the ebook, because that was the first one that I put out. So now it is new and improved.
Yeah, new and improved.
Updated and expanded.
New and improved, much like this interview, because I'll tell listeners, we actually spoke, I think this time last year, and we had our own little radio adventure where the phones didn't work, and it was a crazy thing. Somehow we muddled through and created something, but I'm glad we finally got a chance to reconnect and made some.
And I do appreciate the print version that you put in the paper. That helps.
Yeah, we might have had better luck sending up smoke signals trying to get that interview out, but I'm glad we.
But hey, you and I had fun.
We had fun. That's all that matters, right? I'm glad we reconnected and could bring you in that crystal clear San Diego freeway sound that you're now so notable for. By the way, is Shotgun Tom Kelly from your area? Does he broadcast from there?
He is. Bless his little heart. Shotgun Tom Kelly is like a legend in San Diego and L.A. He's at K-Earth right now in L.A., but he began with KCBQ in San Diego, and he just, was it just last year or the year before? I'm losing track of time. 2012, no, it had to have been 2011, is when they dedicated the KCBQ memorial or monument. And so we had a great gala, you might say, and had just a terrific, fun time. Some of the DJs came down. I mean, one of my guys from L.A. came down, Neil Ross. And Neil Ross, for instance, a lot of the guys started here at KCBQ, and Neil Ross was one of them. And he's now hotshot announcer up in L.A. He does some of the awards shows and everything. And so, it was really fun meeting some of them because most of my work is done over the phone with them.
Right.
So, but Shotgun Tom Kelly is he's a character. He has been from the beginning.
Right.
And he will appear in the next book, in the 60s and 70s book. And I've been to his house, met some of the DJs there and a few other people, and he also is great friends with Jack Vincent, and Jack Vincent is one of my early pioneering DJs.
See, this is interesting, and we'll wrap it up here, but I'll just say this. One of the fascinating things about a book like this is people sort of forget that, or they're not aware of all these other DJs because, your local DJ is the guy you remember. There really weren't that many. There really weren't any at all national DJs at the time, with the exception with the exception of maybe a Wolfman Jack.
Wolfman Jack.
Late at night. But people over here, they in the New York, New Jersey area, they remember Dan Ingram, and they remember Cousin Brucey and B. Mitchell Reed, just Harry Harrison, go on and on. But you talk to somebody in L.A. and they don't know who you're talking about.
Exactly. And I found that a lot when I was talking to people, especially in the first early days of getting this research together. And it was so much fun because that's what I'm hoping to do, and you just hit the nail on the head. I'm hoping to kind of bring the country together, you might say, and introduce them to some of the DJs from other parts of the country. And like you said, we didn't know what was going on in New York, and unless one of our cousins visited us or something, kind of thing.
Thanks so much for being on, LinDee. It's great talking to you. Blastfromyourpast.net, right? That's the website?
Yes, blastfromyourpast.net.
And you're on Facebook as well.
I am. I'm all over the place. I'm on Facebook under LinDee Rochelle, LinDee Rochelle. And I'm also on LinkedIn. You can find me on Twitter. I'm just all over.
All right, LinDee, thanks so much.
Well, thank you, Go Steve, very, very much. I've totally enjoyed it and hope we get to talk again soon.
Absolutely, yeah. You got to get that second volume.
You betcha. I'm working on it.
All right. Thanks, LinDee.
Rock on, dude.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.